What's the...
It's quite cold outside.
Is it up there?
Okay. Oh, well, here we are.
Is that close enough to me?
I think so, yeah. Welcome everyone to the evening tea. This is Tim, and I'm here with Dotson. And I wanted, people have heard various of your interviews, and a few people have asked me some questions, so I wanted to ask you a few of them. One came from my... I don't know if you remember, a few weeks ago I told you that Jimmy Carter was in hospice.
Yes, that broke my heart.
It broke your heart. So I don't know if you remember from our interview about his family, you recounted one anecdote in which you were being driven back, you were like in Americas, and you were being driven back to the airport by Chip, Jimmy Carter's son.
Yes.
And you stopped at a diner or something.
That's
and
right.
He, in order, to kind of be mean to you and to kind of humiliate a waitress, he told a waitress that he was with, this is Dotson Rader, he's a writer from New York, and he, sucks, black cock or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And my mother asked me why you didn't just get out of the car and get a taxi to the airport.
You can't get a taxi in America. Simple as that. And given the local population, it's too dangerous to hitchhike. I take it your mother has never been in the Deep South.
Certainly not there, I don't think. And then I wanted to ask you, so I went to the Columbia Archive and I started going through a few of the boxes that you have there.
Well, they actually kept all that stuff?
Mm-hmm. I found lots of interesting things. I found a bunch of your correspondence with Tennessee Williams. There was a whole box of that, and I started taking pictures of it all. I only got through, about 10 or 20% of just that one box. But I got some great, I can send you a bunch of it if you want.
Wow.
And I'm going to go back and try to get as much,
Have they been cooperative with you?
So far, yeah. So far, they've been very good. I found some audio tapes there. I found interviews with you and Tennessee Williams.
Oh, really?
Yes, I found tapes of you interviewing Gerald Ford, of you interviewing Ted Kennedy back in 1981.
Oh, that was sad.
Tip O'Neill, an interview with Tip O'Neill.
There should be Nancy Reagan.
Okay. I found, I think, about 16 tapes so far. Once I've found it all, we'll make an inventory. And then I found it was really funny how you have to use their scratch paper if you want to take note, and all of their scratch paper has like a hole in the middle of it, like this hole, so you can't put papers in there.
Amazing. I was only there once, and that was to listen to, I forget, interviews with Betty Davis or somebody. Mm-hmm. I thought they were very nice.
Yeah, no,
they're very helpful.
Yeah, and it's a great. It's a great reading room.
They put you in this little room, but they put me in this glass room.
Yeah. And it's booked solid. You have to book it like a month in advance.
You're kidding.
Because they have all sorts of stuff in there.
No, yeah.
They have all sorts of treasures in there. So it was the first box, and it was with with your letters back and forth with. Well, actually, the first letter was it was a box of your correspondence, and the first file on top was the letter that you wrote to Pat Lawford right after Tennessee had died from the Union Square Hotel or whatever on the stationery.
Oh my God!
I was like on top on the first thing, and I took a picture of that. And then I tried, and I was trying to put it back into the into the folder.
Suitcase.
Yeah. And I kept trying to jam it in, and it wouldn't go. So I finally looked, and there was the bottle, the second all bottle.
You have it, right?
No, I don't. They have it.
We should have just taken it.
Well, but they know they would have caught me because they had it. Apparently, they had it on exhibition, and it was very popular. They told me.
The Tennessee Williams second home.
Yeah, it was like lots of people. Yes.
What I would like is get my typewriter back. That's what I would like. If you could next time
you can speak to them about it. We'll bring you. Well, you should come down and then talk to them about that next time I go.
I went. They had a Tennessee Williams exhibit at the library of their holdings.
Yeah.
And they had a big sort of round table display thing, and they had 6 of his typewriters, and 2 of them were mine. And the one I wanted back was I had this red plastic typewriter, little thing that I loved. I took everywhere, and I left it. It was in my bedroom at Tennessee's place. And I go to this exhibit, and there it is. And I thought to myself, if they got that, then they must have lots of other stuff of mine. That's and I'd like to get that stuff back.
Well, we can try. That's what I wanted to ask you about next. I wanted to, get more on the story of the bottles. Second, I guess I don't know if you want to talk about it, but just maybe just talk about Tennessee Williams' death, like how you first learned about it and kind of what happened.
Do you want to talk about that now?
If you want to. If not, we can talk about something else.
I had dinner. I was living in Princeton then with Richard, and I'd had dinner with him the day before, and I was going back to Princeton. And the following day, I was to go to California to look San Francisco, and I was doing a book promotion. And I got a call that night that he had died, and I was really emotionally upset. It really hit me hard. And the last thing I wanted to do was to go into New York to the Elysee Hotel and deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. So the next day I flew to San Francisco and I did a television show interview. And then rather than come back to New York, I flew down. I was really upset. I said, I got to get the fuck away from anything that had to do with him. Because I was having a really difficult time emotionally dealing with the loss. And so many places I had been with him I wanted to get away from any place that had any memory of him. So I flew down from San Francisco. I flew to San Diego. Thought, well, I'll stay in San Diego for the night. Figure out where I want to go to Mexico or go to Brazil or something. So I'm at the hotel, and the desk clerk says, you ought to go down to Mazatlan. It's very pretty. It has a nice beach. And so I flew down to Mazatlan, and I'm in the bar of this hotel, and had nothing to do with Tennessee, right? So I fly down to Mazatlan, and I'm sitting in the bar, and this American guy is sitting next to me. And we're talking, there's a hurricane is just about to come into Mazatlan. God, that's so typical of me. And he says to me, it's really strange being here with the hurricane coming in and everything. And he said, that play at Tennessee's, the doctor, and there's a hurricane. Well, where he wrote that? He wrote that here. I didn't bring up Tennessee. He just said, isn't it ironic we're here? And then, oh, God, I can't get away from him. Anyway, so I stayed there for, I guess, a week. Hurricane blew in, blew out. I think I went back to New York. And that's when Dakin called me. And I'd become really close. Dakin gotten really close to Richard. And
Tennessee's brother.
Yes, and he called me about the funeral. And I didn't want to go. And that's what he told me about his plans for the burial. Because Dakin was always trying to figure out how to make money because he resented the fact Tennessee was famous and Dakin wasn't. And Tennessee had written plays and a book, and Dakin had written a book and nobody read it. And there was a great deal of sibling rivalry.
They told me to take a streetcar named Desire, transfer to cemetery, and get off at Elysian Fields. And here I am, my sister's home. What a dreadful, hateful place it is. Only Mr. Edgar Allan Poe could possibly do justice to it.
Anyway, so what we're talking about?
So Dakin called you and he told you how he was going to arrange the funeral, and so what was special about it?
What he wanted to do is he was trying to figure out how to make money off of it.
Funerals are expensive.
So his idea was Tennessee hated his mother, Miss Edwina, and he hated St. Louis, and he didn't much like Dakin. I told you that story about Dakin coming down to Key West. Dakin came down to Key West with his wife, and he drove. And he came to the house one day and knocked on the door, and I said, "Oh, Dakin." And he said, Is Tom here? I said, because I knew they didn't get along. I said, let me check. I think he may have gone to the store. Let me check. Tennessee was out in the patio, and I said, your brother's here. Oh, love it. So I went to the door, and I said, no, he's not. Oh, he said, well, I'll wait till he comes home. So he sat parked in his car, directly across from the front door, the porch of the house, and he was there for days.
What?
And we'd have to leave by the side of the.
Are you serious?
The second day, he had gotten big poster cards and made a sign that he taped to his car that said, "Tennessee Williams is mean to his brother." as if that somehow would open the door for him.
Well, don't let my coming in here without warnings to keep you from your plans. Go ahead, don't think of me, your little sister. I'll find something to do to occupy my time.
What did he want?
No.
Why was he there?
Well, he wanted to see Tennessee. He was always wanting to see Tennessee. Dakin always had schemes, money-making schemes. They all depended on Tennessee being involved.
Fire! Fire! Long distance, please. Western Union, Dallas, Texas. This is Shep Huntley. Sister and I in desperate situation. Please send money.
But he came up with this idea.
Well, all schemes aren't most schemes you go after your friends and family?
Yeah, that's true. You
And
do.
acquaintances.
No, yeah, that's true. But his schemes are so harebrained. He wanted to, when Tennessee died, he wanted to have Tennessee embalmed and then displayed in a glass coffin, where you would put, the coffin would be closed and it was like a cover over it. He was serious about this. And you put a quarter in and the cover would come off, slide out 2 inches. You could see the top of Tennessee's head. You put another quarter in, it would come back another 2 inches.
All the way down?
Well, I mean, like down to his waist. I don't think he was quite serious about it. I said, I don't think that's going to be. I don't think they'll allow that.
I wonder if anyone's ever done that.
Well, he got the idea from Lennon's tomb.
Yeah, but they don't. There's no like.
Oh, I know.
I guess that's.
How do you monitorize Lennon's tomb?
Now, money in the bank is a wonderful thing. And a woman looks nice with a nice gold ring. But honey, take a tip. And that tip ain't cold. Your mouth is no place to carry your gold.
So then when did you finally go to Key West?
I went down to Mazatlan and then I went off to Key West from Mexico. Richard was down there. It wasn't Key West anymore. And I came back to New York. Richard stayed on there like a month or two. And then he gave up the house and came back to Princeton. It wasn't the same after Tennessee died. I mean, it wasn't our Key West anymore. And also they had, a few years before, Marriott had built there were big hotels coming in and condos, and it wasn't sort of rough and ready. It wasn't a place for sailors and down-at-heel writers anymore. It had become a tourist attraction and a spa. And I went back once when they were selling the house to get my stuff. Well, I think I told you that. That was the only left in the house was the second old bottle.
And where did you find it?
It's in Tennessee's bathroom cabinet. I just thought it was since he died a second old, I thought that was the irony of that. The only thing left of him was that. They'd even torn up the carpeting and the linoleum floors, if you can believe it.
And how did he die exactly?
Well, that's a good question. He'd gone. I left. I wrote about this. I left when he died. I was in San Francisco, or on my way to San Francisco, and he'd gone out to dinner and come back with John Euchre, and they were staying at the Elysee Hotel. And one reason he liked the Elysee Hotel across the street was the liquor store. But he stayed there for decades. Always had the same suite. It's like home to him. And all the time I knew him, he once changed hotels. He stayed at the, I forget what it's called now, it's a brand new hotel that has a swimming pool down on 8th Avenue. I can't remember the name of the hotel. And then I went over to go swimming with him. And, we took a shower and then to go in the pool. And he saw 2 guys going in the pool who hadn't taken a shower. And he just, he was germophobic and that was it. Back to the Elysee. So he'd gone out to dinner with John Euchre and come back to the Elysee. And we know what happened is from what John Euchre said in the inquest. The coroner had first put his death as undetermined, the cause undetermined. And he had massive amounts of seconal in his body. And what was curious about it is that the coroner said he died of seconal poisoning. He had heavy amounts of seconal in his body, but he died from choking on a bottle cap. And indeed, they found a bottle cap in his throat. But what was odd about it is they never found a bottle in the suite that matched the cap. And although he died of enormous amounts of seconal, choking seconal, they never found any seconal in the suite. No bottle of seconal, nothing. So here you have a man who died choking on it while overdosing on seconal, and they found no bottle that fit the cap that was in his throat, and they found no seconal bottle in the suite. And after I wrote my book, John Euchre filed a libel suit against me. Because I said in the book, if John Euchre, who was in the other room, in the living room, Tennessee's in the bedroom, and John Euchre said that he heard a thud or something like Tennessee had fallen or something like that. And he said he was alone in the living room. We knew now that from the desk clerk that in fact he wasn't alone, and someone had come in, another boy had come in later. Although John denied it. And I wrote in my book, and I said if he'd only gotten off his ass, I'm paraphrasing this, in the living room when he heard Tennessee fall to the floor and gone into the bedroom, he could have saved his life. That's what he sued me for. And it cost several $100,000 to defend the book, but at the end, the court threw it out with a summary judgment. It was a ridiculous suit. So anyway, the thing that always bothered me about it is that the desk clerk, John had said he was alone in the room. The desk clerk said the other young man had gone up. He found a bottle cap in his throat, but there wasn't any bottle in the suite that matched the cap. So I was wondering what the fuck was the cap, where did it come from? And why would Tennessee put a bottle cap in his throat? And coroner said he died had a massive overdose of seconal, but there was no seconal bottle. There was no seconal, and I thought, he overdosed himself and then took the bottle and went and threw it down the garbage chute? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. Still, it makes no sense to me.
And so what do you think happened?
I think John, I don't think it was a murder. What I think it probably was is that, all right, I'll tell you what I know. So we questioned John, and John said that the reason there wasn't any bottle of seconal is when he found Tennessee, he heard him fall. He didn't do anything about it. And when it was the next morning, he went in and he found Tennessee lying on one side of the bed. And so my lawyer asked him, did you call the doctor? Did you call the desk? No, he called John Eastman, the lawyer. I don't know how Tennessee ended up with John Eastman, because John Eastman, about 2 years before, became his lawyer. I don't know how that happened. He had the same lawyer for a long, long time, but there we are. Called John Eastman and asked what he should do, and he said at that point he went back into the bedroom. I said, the lawyer said to put Mr. Williams on the bed, to check Mr. No, he went back to get the empty seconal bottle and throw it down the garbage chute. And why did you do that? Well, Mr. Eastman said I should do that, because he just thought otherwise people would think Tennessee was a seconal addict. We thought the reason he did it is because with the seconal bottle, you would know that the doctor who prescribed it was John Eastman's doctor. That's why we think it was thrown away. I don't know whether he was murdered or not. I just think that to be in the suite, and the reason John's there is to take care of him. He was acting as his traveling companion, handled the luggage, the usual. It wasn't a sexual thing. And to hear the person you're supposed to be caring for thump and fall on the floor and not call nobody except some lawyer, and then go back in the room and take the seconal bottle and throw it down the garbage chute because the name on the bottle was John Eastman's doctor, and then go back and call John Eastman again, still not call the desk, still not get medical care, and then for some reason that I still don't understand, to lift the body and put it back on the bed. So the whole thing is weird.
And why do you, assuming that it wasn't a murder, assuming that Tennessee had consumed the pills himself, why would he have, was he just like drunk or something, do you think maybe? He just accidentally, knocked the bottle back and the pills fell and the bottle cap fell and he choked on it?
It was an eye drop bottle, little bottle.
Mm-hmm.
With a little cap. And the little cap had been shoved down his throat.
So there was seconal drops?
I know. I think somebody shoved them down his throat because
someone shoved the bottle cap down his throat.
Yeah, because if you put a pillow over his head and smothered him, and then shoved a bottle cap down his throat. Forensically, the conclusion would be the same, that he died choking on a cap. Not he died choking while he's being smothered, he died because of the cap.
So you think it was murder?
I think,
Sounds
well,
like-
I don't think, well, I think something happened in that room that the facts are not explained by saying, oh, well, how did he swallow a cap when there's no bottle to the cap? How did he? None of it makes any sense.
Well, I mean, what you said makes sense is that John Eastman's doctor was on the bottle, so yeah, with the bottle. I mean, that makes sense by itself.
But also in the will, the money went to John. Half the money went to, for some reason, to John Eastman, who used it to build a wing on I think it's Long Island Jewish Hospital named after his mother. I think the whole estate at Twin Tennessee that was worth around $7 million. It still produces millions every year. And then the other half went to the University of the South, because that's where his grandfather had been chaplain. None of it made sense.
And do you think he could have by himself overdosed
No.
on Seconal? He wouldn't have taken.
No.
So
I think somebody.
You think he was drugged, smothered,
Yeah,
and
that's
someone
what
shoved
that's what I think.
bottle cap in his
Yeah.
throat?
And none of it makes any sense.
So shifting gears dramatically, I always wanted to go back to the beginning. And I think you said that you were introduced to him through Andy Warhol.
No, through Candy Darling.
Andy Darling. So how did that happen?
Haven't I told you that? I was invited by Charles Henry Ford, invited me to a party down at a loft in the Lower East Side. It's now, I think, called Soho. And, it was kind of a druggy party. It was campy and fun, and drag queens and hustlers and, really trash. And so I was dying to go. And so I met Candy Darling. And who was I with? I was with Egon Furstenberg. And so with Egon and me, and we went in, and Candy Darling was there. And I knew Candy Darling. And I said, "Hello, how are you, darling?" And I looked over and I said, "Is that?" She said, "That's Tennessee Williams, and he's my date, and don't you forget it." Oh, bitch. So I went over, and he knew he knew who I was, and I said, I'm Dotson Raider. Oh, maybe I know who you are. And I said, we'd fun to get together. Why don't we get together? Oh, baby, I'd love that. I'd love that. What about tomorrow? I said, tomorrow? Yeah, why not tomorrow? And he said, what do you charge for dinner? And I thought he was joking. I said, for dinner? I mean, a whole dinner? It's $500. $500? He said, yes. He went like this, took the money out of his pocket, and shoved it back in. He said, what about lunch? And I said, that would be $200. What about coffee and a bun around 10? That's how I met him.
And so when did you see each other again after that?
What's one of those things where you meet somebody, so in New York, and then it turns out you know all these people in common. So my memory is, so I've written all this down somewhere, my memory is that we met at Elysee the next day, and I'm trying to think where we went to lunch, and I'm trying to remember where now. I want to say Elaine's, but I'm not sure if it was Elaine's. And then I sort of went out while he was in town, because I'd come into town, I lived in Princeton, so I'd come into town, I found myself staying in the suite. I wanted to come to town to see him the first few months, and so we became really close.